Hey, what's happening? It's Philip Schaefer, and I am here with Tim. He's my audience today. Usually got a few guys here, but they're out there selling vehicles. I am a team lead slash salesperson at Classic Southeast Texas in Beaumont. And so part of my role is to train. So I wanted to go over something really cool that we've been using to help us with one of the big things out there going on. Customers are concerned with it for obvious reasons, and salespeople may have a little bit of a hard time with it. It's market adjustments. So all the vehicles out there, obviously we have a shortage in supply, and so people are putting market adjustments on their vehicles. So what I want to do is show you kind of how I not only explain it and overcome those concerns about that, but I'm going to break it down into three parts. We call it 3 rounds, and I'm going to go through those 3 rounds real quick with you. Okay, so take a look. All right, so the first thing I'm going to say if someone has a question or a concern about market adjustments is there have always been market adjustments. What do I mean by that? In a typical market, let me ask you this, Mr. Customer, last time you bought a vehicle, did you pay exactly MSRP? And the answer is probably no, because what happened, you got a discount. So there have always been market adjustments. In that case, the market adjustment was down rather than up like it is right now. So because we had, in our store, for example, we typically have about 300 to 350 trucks on the ground at any given time. Now we have only about 10. In that case, where there's 350 of them, we're trying to get somebody to take those suckers off our hands. So we will get aggressive and put discounts on those vehicles. So we're market adjusting down. Today, I've only got 4 or 5 of them. And with those 4 or 5, that's the same thing in a lot of cases, other dealers. Heck, we've got a lot compared to other dealers. So you can understand why we're going to adjust that market value up a little bit. So that's round 1. If that becomes a problem, we're going to jump to round 2. Round 2, I call it story time. I think it's really important that you have some stories to share about maybe, for me, the story I use, I'll go ahead and give it to you. I have a friend here, he's a local attorney, and he has bought over the past 12 months 5 Escalades from me. Every time he buys a new Escalade, now when he buys those Escalades, he pays over $10,000 over MSRP. Now, every time he comes back and trades for the next one, he either gets the same amount or a few thousand more than what he paid. So he's essentially driving that vehicle for free. He's not losing any money like in a typical market. So that's a real story. He's got a couple more coming, and every time he's going to pay over MSRP. He knows the drill. But because the market's so solid, he's not afraid of that. He knows that fortune favors the brave, right? So that's round 2, story time. If you could use my story if you want to, I don't care. But use your own story. I'm sure you've got some great examples of things that you've used or that have happened with your customers, even though you've had market adjustments on your vehicles. All right, so round 3, if that doesn't do the trick, round 3 would be something like, I'm going to tell you, Mr. Customer, you can also use this sort of to address other issues, but it's the best time ever to buy a vehicle. What do I mean by that? What are you talking about, Philip? I'm paying over MSRP. How is it the best time to buy a vehicle ever? Let me show you. All right, I'm going to use just round numbers just for round numbers' sake. Let's say you have a truck out there that MSRP's for $50,000. So we'll call it a $50,000 MSRP. Typical market, you're going to pay, you might get a discount of $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 off. Let's call it $10,000 off just for big, easy numbers to think about. So if I take $10,000 off in a typical market, we'll call it typical market, then you're going to be paying about $40,000 for that vehicle. You got a huge discount. Cool. But what happens in a typical market when there are 350 trucks out there on the ground? If you drive off in that vehicle and you decide, hey, I don't like the color anymore, I don't like the interior, I want to upgrade, life happens, who knows, whatever's going on in your life, but things change and you need to trade out of that vehicle, what typically happens? What typically happens is you lose between 20 and 30% of the value in immediate depreciation when you drive off the lot. We know about that. So what does that look like? That looks like, if we just called it 25%, then you've just lost another $10,000. So that vehicle that you paid 40 grand for, right? And you usually probably have a loan on that for 40 grand because you haven't had a chance to make many payments. You've taken a $10,000 hit. Now you're at 30 grand, okay? The vehicle you just drove off and you just paid 40 grand for it, it's worth $30,000 in a typical market because of depreciation. That's not the case anymore. Now, on that $50,000 vehicle, we talked about market adjustment. Our market adjustment on half-ton trucks is $2,500, plus we have an addendum of $2,150, ceramic coat, wheel locks, 2 years of maintenance. All right, so in today's market, you're gonna pay, for that $50,000 vehicle, you're gonna pay $55,000. Let's just call it $55,000, okay? That's what you'd pay for it today. All right, if I drive off the lot, because I just bought the 5th one, so now we're down to 4, right? So that's a pretty solid market, supply and demand. If I drive off in this truck and I decide, you know what, something happens, I don't like it anymore, I want to trade out of it or sell it or whatever, that vehicle, I've seen situations where those vehicles will come back and bring $57,000, okay? I'm not saying that's gonna happen, I don't have a crystal ball, but even if it doesn't do 57, if it just does 55, you break even. Let's say, worst case scenario, it brings MSRP used. Every one of you guys know that's happening. I've got a Suburban out there. Anyway, we could talk about it like that. The vehicles are bringing more than they bring, even with the market adjustment. So let's say we got MSRP. You're still only down $5,000, which is way better than being down $10,000. So even if you lost $5,000, you're still in a better situation than you are in a typical market. But I'm going to tell you, you're probably going to be somewhere between here and here, right? Where you're making a little bit of money on it, or at least breaking even. So those 3 rounds for you, a market adjustment. Hopefully that helps. You can add, kind of take away, put your own little spin on that. That's how we do it here, and it's been pretty effective. And as for consumers, maybe that'll help you to understand kind of what's going on in the market. Of course, if you have any questions, my name's Philip. You can reach out to me, 832-603-7426. I'd love to help you out. Or if you're looking for a vehicle, I can hook you up with any of our guys here. Hope you guys have the most wonderful day ever. See you soon. Love y'all.